Okay, so welcome, Samantha.
Thank you for having me here.
How are you again?
I'm happy to be here.
We're at home base here at Record ATX, and today we're doing something that I haven't done. Maybe you have.
I have not done this.
Well, we have a studio audience. Go ahead and clap, guys, off camera. There. Okay. So I feel like, remember the scene in Seinfeld when Kramer got the Michael Douglas studio and he started doing a talk show in his living room? You're too young.
No.
I remember.
I don't remember.
Okay. Everybody's going to get a YouTube link of that scene after we finish here. But what we wanted to do today, because I am loving the heck out of what I'm doing, you and what you're doing have inspired me to do what I'm doing. And for both of us, this is sort of a passion project.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's been, let's just do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the spirit of your podcast anyway.
Absolutely.
And so when we met for the first time and we started talking about doing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to start this. And I met you and I was like, I felt like a veteran, and I said, gosh, I could learn a lot from her, but I bet other people could also. And so what we jointly decided to do, mainly me pushing you, let's be honest with it, dragging you along with one of my crazy ideas, is to do a little session on getting started in podcasting. Not necessarily as a business, but as part of a marketing mix for any small business. And one of the kind of the pillars of what you're doing is to encourage small businesses, local businesses, really creative entrepreneurs. And so in that vein, I said, hey, here's what we need to do. We need to do something to lower the bar, to remove a little bit of the fear and the uncertainty and the anxiety of doing something new, which is also part of, the push with your podcast, your current podcast, The Artist Rendezvous, and say, hey, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to start.
Absolutely.
And so tell us a little bit about, real quickly, your podcast journey and where you are now.
Sure. So I recently launched a podcast called The Artist Rendezvous. I film here at Record ATX. And The Artist Rendezvous is a video podcast focused on creatives and artists in Austin. It tells the story of the inspiration behind someone's idea and then how they actually executed it. The time, money, community involvement, mindset shifts that went into creating that album, starting that brick and mortar, putting that business out into the world, or that creative project. This is my third podcast. So this idea actually came when I was interviewing an entrepreneur for another podcast of mine, Wild River, when I realized, wait a minute, there's like this other idea. It has a broader audience. It has a way of engaging in the community. It fit more goals of what I was looking to support in my personal life. And I could just see how to build it out more. I was excited to start this third project. And I've had about 100 podcast episodes plus a number of YouTube videos before. So I knew I could take everything I've learned and create something that was more elevated, polished, and just did a better job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you're being very humble. You're also a licensed attorney.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have a whole day job / prior life career before podcasting.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us have, as we talked about on the phone yesterday, these left brain day jobs.
Yes.
Where we do things very concrete sequentially, and there's order and there's business. But every time I hear your podcast, it's like my mind space shifts. My mindset shifts. I go to a different place. I go to to the other side of my brain.
Good.
And it gives me some relief to experience that. I believe when you do things that you're supposed to be doing, when you're being creative, that it gives you energy. It doesn't suck it out of you.
Absolutely. Every person is creative. Not all of us have artistic talents to speak of, but every single person is creative because we're literally creating in every moment anyway. And when you intentionally flex that in whatever way you're doing, so I graduated law school almost 9 years ago, and I did securities litigation and then environmental law. I can find ways to flex that creativity in the legal practice, but the legal practice is more constrained for my type of creativity.
Right.
So I needed to find other ways. And then those other ways turned into a lot of what I do now professionally for work in addition to law. But everybody has that. And when you explore it, you not only learn about yourself, it gives you energy. It allows you to meet important people that important for you, people that you're supposed to know, and it fulfills you. And I think podcasting can be a great way to do that and a way to bring more creativity into a type of job that maybe doesn't have as much, along with any other creative endeavor.
And so I think that particularly in this media and this day and time where everybody's a quote unquote creator, that it takes some intentionality. It takes the podcasting media gives you that long form, that more than 30 seconds or a minute to really engage with your audience and build a rapport. And I might even say a trust.
Absolutely.
With them.
Yes.
Over time. And so I think it tends to be a deeper relationship with your audience. And that relationship can translate for folks that are in quote unquote boring professions to really engage with prospects, leads, folks that may use your services because they're getting to see another side of you.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, that's the real opportunity in this space, is to have people get to know you on a scale, a very large scale.
Yes.
And it should be something that's considered, because particularly for high trust, high value transactions, legal profession, accounting, real estate, tech, tons of professional services business, they want to know a little bit about you before they go in to meet you in the office.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that, for me, showing that creative side, so showing that human side, is probably going to be a differentiator going forward.
When I think anyone in this industry could relate to or understands this, that if you go sit down for somebody for an hour, they will trust you so much more than if they only talk to you for 5 minutes on the phone. If you go talk to someone for 5 hours or 10 hours, that trust builds. When someone listens to a podcast with you, it is a similar experience to sitting across from somebody and having a conversation. It's how we accidentally create parasocial relationships with people online, because you feel like you've been spending all this time talking to them. And you don't have to actually go and sit and have that coffee conversation 10 times to build that level of trust. You could use the podcast as a support, and then of course follow it up with more in-person relationship.
I think it collapses time.
It absolutely does.
For lead generation and lead nurturing, because of that relationship building that happens. I also believe, and this is something we talked about previously, was the way podcasts are ingested, are listened to. Most people turn on a podcast when they're ready to hear it, whether they're in the car, maybe they're working out or Peloton or jogging or walking, but they're in that space, that headspace, to receive information.
Yes. Yes.
And it's much more effective
Yes.
way to communicate because the audience is going, I'm ready to listen to Samantha right now. Push button, right? And so I think that is a nuance that gets overlooked. That the person, a lot of times if you make a cold call or you send an email or you do any other kind of communication that's not one-on-one, I think this particular format is the most effective because of that.
Yes. Yeah, people are opting into it.
They're opting into it. That's right.
And your job as the creator is to get it in front of them enough so they remember when they have free time and they're on that walk or cooking dinner that they think of, oh, I want to listen to Michael's podcast right now.
Yeah. Or Samantha's.
Or yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of why you've made the decision, for example, to record in a professional studio. Why do you love studio? Because the barrier to entry is very low, right? You could get a microphone at Best Buy and you can sit in front of your camera at home and you can record. For you, what was the difference for you?
Yeah. So the main difference is, look, you can manufacture decent sound at home. You can go buy a good microphone, some processing equipment, and soundproof your space, and it'll work. And that's what I did for the majority of my podcast episodes. And it was effective in that it built a client base and a trust base that fed those businesses. I now switched to studio because it's the future of podcasting. And honestly, the main reason is you need video clips to promote it.
Yes.
And no one wants to. It's not attractive to pull a clip from Zoom. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on social media.
That's right.
And that is how people look at a podcast episode and say, oh, I want to listen to it. If you post, I've had this experience before where I post something and for some reason publish the podcast episode and for some reason didn't promote it, the views are dramatically lower.
Wow.
If you promote it with the video, it radically increases who's listening to it.
Interesting.
The other reason is it brands credibility. It changes how it looks. You can think of anything. If somebody is polished, if you think of somebody sending a voice memo of a singer versus them in a studio, it will change the delivery of how your brand is being consumed, which if we're on the subject of building trust with an audience and you're especially building trust as a professional, you want your brand to be viewed as professional. If your goal is purely self-expression and you want to be as expressive with as little cost as possible, great, go get a microphone. You can probably do that for under $100 and it will be adequate. But if you want to reach the goals that you're discussing, studio is a great use for that.
I'd 100% agree. I think that the care and the meticulousness and the attention to detail that you can achieve in the studio is a reflection of how you probably handle your business.
There are so many things that you can't manufacture at home. Like someone would be like, okay, well, what if I have some camera equipment? One, I actually really considered this with the Artist Rendezvous. So I considered buying equipment. I talked to professional videographers about how would I do this at home? And it's very hard to manage multiple microphones and multiple cameras when you're also trying to host a show.
Certainly.
And you're also trying to interview somebody.
We saw this in the setup today.
It's a hard thing to do.
It is.
It's really hard to control lighting. If you're using your home or your office, you probably have windows in that space. You might have skylights. The lighting can shift. The lighting can shift in the course of the episode and change the way that it looks. Your home, for most people who are interested in podcasting, is not a podcast studio. So the aesthetic, it ends up being quite a bit of an investment if you want to have good video. And so unless you're so committed that you're going to build a home studio, at which point you're probably not in the audience we're talking to right now.
Right.
Then I think a studio time is great. And then for all the obvious reasons, they do a great job editing. The sound quality is a lot better.
Sure.
You have people who are professionally versed in capturing this. So you can just focus on how do I deliver information, how to deliver the story, the content in the way that the audience would want and in the way that meets my goals as a creative.
When I tried to do it at the house, and look, I'll probably put some stuff out from the house because
Yeah.
I'll have a thought and I'll like, okay, turn it on. Let me just memorialize it, right? Here's what I noticed. There are different types of light.
Yes.
There's yellow light, there's blue light, there's sunlight, there's fluorescent, and all these light mixes, you're right, the ambient does change. And it's subtle, but it's also distracting. And so that consistent level of professional delivering quality is probably pretty important. You created, probably for your own use, just to try to get your thoughts out. You built a deck.
Yes.
And while we're not going to share it with everybody because there's some pretty cool stuff in there, I will tell you, you shared it with me, and I thought, oh my gosh, there are some gems in here that I wanted to show. Now, I did print it out on my black and white printer.
Great.
Because I was out of color ink. Shocker. But I want to run people through real quickly kind of the elements that you went through. Start with branding very quickly.
Yeah. So podcast, especially now with current podcasting, it's visual in nature. Podcasting used to be audio. So branding always matters, but it matters more because there's a visual component of it, especially if you're going to be in studio, there's film. So before branding, the branding is a reflection of what is the purpose of the podcast? How do you want people to feel? What is the tone? What are all of those things? Things to think about in branding are your color scheme, the vibe of it, photos, cover art. You don't need a ton. Like I don't like go through and make sure all my outfits totally match my brand imagery. That would be cool to do at some point.
So one thing I saw, and it may be your hero statement or your mantra, but it says the Artist Rendezvous is a video podcast sharing stories of inspiration and creativity in Austin, Texas. Now, I know ultimately you probably won't limit it to Austin. I think that there's probably some growth in there for you, but I like that you got it down.
Yes.
This is what I'm doing.
Yes.
And I think that that clarity is important for creatives because our minds tend to go different places.
Let me tell you. And it's so hard. This is actually one of the more challenging parts, I think, of creating a podcast because you're like, well, who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to the first-time home buyer? Am I speaking to somebody who's a fifth-time home buyer, a commercial real estate agent, whatever it is? For me, am I speaking to entrepreneurs, new creatives, people everywhere, people in Austin? It is important that you answer those questions. You don't have to answer all of them right away. You can refine it in your first few episodes. But if you don't have that, you won't be for anybody. Like people won't hear themselves and they won't understand why this podcast is relevant for them, or they'll resonate with one episode but not the next 7, and you won't be able to build a audience.
Yeah. Well, you said the right word, and is audience. And I am headed to the section in your deck called audience.
Perfect.
Because that was a great lead in, but I want to get to that because understanding your audience and who is receiving your creativity and how they react to it is really the purpose. So let's get to audience here real quick. Here it is. Your audience for the Artist Rendezvous, there were 3, and I thought they were very interesting. The creative curious, not sure they are creative, but are drawn to it. Aspiring creatives. Okay, so that aspirational element for anyone, a lot of people start their search and their journey and their information gathering mode of doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Buying or selling a house, for example. They're going to start that journey way early on. So an aspirational element, and then there's the active creatives, was the third group of folks that are really doing work, creative work for their career. You also looked at the demos, men, women, age, etc., and then who are they, and what did they do? Here is the gold, though.
Yeah.
The gold is this. You say, what problem does this podcast solve for my audience?
Yes. Why would somebody, respectfully, most people don't want to just listen to you talk for 25 minutes to 50 minutes just because your mom might, or good friends who want to support you. Everyone else has a problem has a problem that they need to be solved. It doesn't have to be a serious problem, but it's something like, I don't know how to do this, or I'm interested in this. I need help with this. I'm looking for answers, solutions, perspectives. When you can clarify what is the problem that I'm helping to solve, and then make sure that every episode is answering that problem and providing a solution, you're actually adding value.
So here's what was very interesting, because as I listened to your podcast, I was like, how are you answering this question for your own episode? Because I listen to your episodes for escape. Like that's my, like, okay, or I've had a crap day and I'm like, okay, what are other creatives going through? I want to feel like that I'm not alone. One of the things you said was, helps people feel less alone in their creative journey. And I was the number one. I was like, oh, that's why I'm listening to it. Right.
I'm so glad you're having that experience. That's great.
That's what I'm doing. The second thing you said was, normalizes doubt, fear, and slow progress in the creative process.
Yes.
That's the community build. That's the tie.
Yes.
But for anyone that's going through any sort of process, home buying, home selling, they're going to experience those emotions, even if it's in what we would consider to be a non-emotional purchase, like a piece of investment property. I've always felt that every purchase is emotional in some way. The reason is because that investor is investing for some reason, to better their life for their family, to provide income, to save for a college fund. So there are all these indirect emotions that are tied to this process, and understanding the humanity and the human side of these problems we're trying to solve helps when you talk it out on a podcast.
And for you here listening, when you're thinking about what problem do I solve, make sure that the solution that you're providing directly relates to the solution you provide as an agent, like in your professional job. Because ideally, they will listen and say, okay, I trust that this person can solve these problems for me. And when I have bigger, more complex problems, I will go speak to them. And there's a direct correlation, not just something that you're knowledgeable about. Because probably a lot of people listening are knowledgeable about a lot of things, but that might not necessarily build trust. You want your audience to feel seen by you and feel like you understand the individual experience that they're having, so that they feel more comfortable reaching out and letting you into what is a very intimate. Spending an amount of money or that process can be one of the most significant experiences in someone's lives, or at the least of the year. So they want to trust you.
There's that acknowledgement.
Yes.
And that empathy that is important when you're delivering any message.
Yes.
For important decisions.
Yes.
One of the last things that we said was, it strengthens connection to community and place through storytelling. I think that was genius. at the bottom of the page, you put, how will listeners feel after listening?
Yes.
And that's really the payoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to remember every word that you said in the podcast, but they will remember the emotional takeaway. They will remember, oh, that was informative. That made me feel like I'm not alone. That my questions and my fears are normal and even justified.
Someone sent me a note that after listening to an episode a week or two ago with Kelly Fry, that they felt like the whole episode was a call to action.
Wow.
And that they feel like they need to get more involved in their community and volunteering.
Yeah.
That's great. That really serves the goal of that episode. When, like, these questions may seem obvious, but I will tell you, in doing this, it can be very easy to not really know them or apply them. So when I had like the project statement, which is to celebrate creativity and creative risk through storytelling and provide inspiration, there's so many ways to do that. In my first episode, which came out this week, it was before I had fully fleshed this out.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
and it wasn't till afterward that I realized there's a lot of ways to talk about creativity. There's a lot of ways to fit that goal. How am I going to frame it and make sure that that storyline follows and answers what the problem that this audience has?
Gotcha.
That can be hard to do because you don't want to cut people out, because whoever's you're talking to could be interesting, because you may be interested in the topic and this is partly for you and your expression. And that's okay. You can do it like that. But if you want if you want it to feel like a clear, cohesive project where everything is building trust and everything's helping to, in this case, grow your business, for me, this brand identity, it's important that every episode matches that.
Last thing's why. We talk about why. Simon Sinek has made the word why, the most popular word in the English language, it seems. And then out of that has spurred TED Talks and all sorts of things. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, because it's always, and I have a cheat sheet. I know your answers because you put them in here.
Yeah.
But why don't you go ahead and share them with everybody?
Sure. And, it may have developed since I wrote that 6 months ago. And it's something to keep in mind when you start your project. You're going to be learning in real time. And so your why is going to develop. There's a few reasons why I did this. I'll start with why it was important to me. I like podcasting. It's fun. I love giving myself projects. It gives me ways to grow and develop as a person and creatively. I wanted to talk to these people. My strategy is basically thinking of my favorite places in Austin or the coolest things I know, and then figuring out who created them and then asking them if they'll sit next to me and talk to me for an hour about their personal experiences. Like, that's so cool. I love conversations. And so I wanted to do that. I also wanted those people in my network. Those are people I want to have as friends, mentors. If I want to start a business one day with a brick and mortar, I didn't have anyone to call. Now I have multiple people who have done that. It gives me advisors. And so I was thinking about what are my personal goals. I wanted to engage more deeply. And I knew that if I was working on a project, it would motivate me to get out and to participate in the community in ways that I might not had I not been doing this. The other reason is it serves a greater goal. So I come from a family of artists and I really respect artists. I don't consider myself an artist. I consider myself a creative, but I have phenomenal painters, photographers, jewelry makers, and I know how important art is. And in a world where we value productivity with the advent of AI, I want I want creativity to be honored, because creative risk is one of the most challenging things that anybody does. And I want those stories to get to be recorded and to be valued. And then the other reason is, I was looking back at an old journal this morning from 2018, and I write in there, I just feel like I should be doing something creative. I was practicing law. I was working like 80 hours a week in New York. And I'm like, I have no creativity in my life. Maybe I'm creative. Maybe I should be pursuing that. And I remember at that time, and this is still the case, I needed constant encouragement that was a good use of my time, and I needed advice and guidance about what the next step should be. And this is my way of offering that. Like, here's a little bit something I learned, pass it on, because almost everybody needs that constant encouragement to take the next step.
Well, I think that with the advent of AI, there's this digital world, right? But I think life is starting to barbell. I think that on one end we have this artificial digital existence, and we're now having this yearning to develop and embrace our humanity and our community again.
Yes.
And the more we have of this artificial and digital, the more we also have a pull back to have human contact and human connection.
Yes.
And so what this medium, what podcast does, in my mind, the future of any business, and it's going to be more true now than ever, is that your network and expanding your network and expanding your community and expanding human connection is going to be as or more important than the digital.
Yes.
Because rarely do you close a sale fully digitally. Let's face it. Digital's great for a lot of things. Podcast, Spotify, right? YouTube, it's digital, right? And it's great for what we call the top of the funnel, the marketing. But at the end of the day, you've got to close someone face to face, person to person, belly to belly. It's always the best way to do it. And so your comments on community really resonate with me. Thank you for helping us understand the importance of what you're doing, the importance and the emerging importance, I think, of dialogue and conversation through medias like podcasting and what it can do for your networks, your community, and your soul.
Thank you.
And your soul. Thank you. All right. Golf clap. Okay. Oh, my foot gets asleep. Okay, we're good.